I feel like I'm exhausted, Rich, from watching a game that I really wasn't, not invested in. I don't work for either of those teams,
Yes.
but that wasn't as exhausting a football game as I think I've ever seen.
You know what, DJ? I led the show this way, and I'll just say to you, it was literally like going to Vegas. It was literally like a trip like going to Vegas.
I can tell you this, and obviously in another life before I started working for the NFL media group. But I have never taken a penny out of Las Vegas, and they've taken quite a few from me. So that's not my Vegas experience.
No, I know. I feel hungover today, literally. So, what is your takeaway from the Monday night Week 1 finale, Daniel?
My first takeaway, big picture, is just how the NFL is king. I mean, how great was that? It was just you never know. It's so unpredictable. It's so fun.
Yes.
I think the other takeaways, the Ravens, with all the injuries, to go on the road, and having worked there and just kind of know the toughness mantra that they have. When it was at the inches away from winning the game for the Raiders, and they've already Lamar's already shook hands and congratulated the Raiders on winning, and then they go back out on the field, and I think most people would say it's a foregone conclusion. It's quarterback sneak once or twice, game's over. And I'm sitting here going, they don't cave. They do not cave. And sure enough, they stunt the line, and then they get a false start and back it up that ends up being a turnover. So from the Ravens side of things, very impressive to fight the way that they fought in that game. And then from the Raiders standpoint, they've needed a pass rush forever, and I think with a healthy Max Crosby and a healthy Yannick Ngakoue, that's the best Raiders pass rush we've seen in quite some time, which is very encouraging, especially when you consider the division in which they play.
And then a couple of our buddy Mayock's decisions late that a lot of people were questioning because they were remaking a roster, replacing some of his picks of recent years with veterans. KJ Wright with a huge fourth down stop. Perriman made a nice play that was big in the second half of the game. Abram made that hit on Mark Andrews that knocked the ball loose in overtime. It would have been a first down if he didn't do that. And then the next play was a fumble. And then all of a sudden the game's over. And I'm wondering what our buddy, you think he's thinking this morning. He was on the show last week saying that he would be next to us next year if they didn't get some wins. What do you think the roster and Mayock and the takeaway from last night looked like, just first blush?
Mike would never say anything, but I think it's kind of like there's more that meets the eye here, And one of the things I don't think people talked about, and you have, this guy's inactive, this guy's no longer on the roster. Anytime you bring in a new defensive coordinator who has a new defensive scheme, things change because you're drafting for what you do and you're signing free agents for what you do. Well, that all changed. And it's no coincidence. You mentioned KJ Wright. Guess what? He played for Gus Bradley. So that makes sense for him. Denzel Perryman played for Gus Bradley. So you're trying to bring in players via the draft or free agency that fit what you do schematically and coaching-wise. And so that happens a lot around the league with different players when you get coaching changes that some guys just don't fit as well as others. So that's your job. Your job's not to make yourself, your record look great in terms of who you've brought in and how much you've paid guys. Your job is to try and put the best guys on the field to win games. And so that's what they did. I know they got a lot of heat for it, but they're 1-0.
What do you make of Cleveland Ferrell being a healthy scratch, 4th overall from just a few years ago?
Yeah, well, they've revamped that defensive front, so they've brought in a lot of new bodies. And again, I think with Gus Bradley, it is a real up-the-field scheme that he wants to run. And I think, Ferrell is not – he's turned into a really good run defender, which, look, in hindsight, should he have been a top 5 pick? No, we were on the set together. I didn't think so at the time. I thought it was a little bit early. But nonetheless, I think he's still a quality NFL player, particularly against the run. He has value. But, look, they don't feel like he's worthy of being active on game day. They've got better guys, and they were pretty competitive and played well on defense. So, it's unique, Rich. Anybody, if you're a general manager, you don't want your top 5 pick to be inactive on game day. I'm not saying that's not the case, but the results are what matter. They got the win.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.